Hello. Thought I'd do a classic demotivator opinion car-based video, because I know the fans are just craving that sort of thing. About a subject which is basically unavoidable right now on the internet, which is the racial violence which occurred in America in Charlottesville, Virginia, in which the alt-right and KKK Nazi groups, like all of the fascist scum of the earth, descended upon the city of Charlottesville to have a rally celebrating General Robert E. Lee, who was a Confederate general who fought for slavery because they hate black people and they hate Jews. And they're a bunch of stupid, disgusting dumb fucks. Backwards morons whose ideas belong in the dustbin of history and have nothing better to do than run around with stupid tiki torches looking like a bunch of fucking morons going on about the white race. Well, those kind of people make me ashamed to be white, to be frank with you. If celebrating white culture means celebrating backwards, primitive, disgusting racism, then fuck white culture and fuck white people. I have no interest in being included in that group, and it's just by the unluckiness of my skin color that I'm forced to say that I'm part of the same group as you fucking losers. Anyway, so that rally of garbage human shitfaces took place, and they were running around doing the Nazi salutes, like waving their Nazi flags everywhere, and the police were not really doing their job, and they should have been shutting down this in the sake of public safety, but I guess police violence is reserved just for like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and they're just getting their ideas out there, their ideas of anti-Semitism, and their ideas of abhorrent racism, because it's just a battle of ideas and it's freedom of speech. That's a load of bullshit. I think it's a threat to public safety, and I think what they were basically doing was like traitorous to the idea of America. Pathetic losers. Anyways, at a certain point there was a counter-rally and a neo-Nazi drove his car into the crowd, killing a woman named Heather Heyer and injuring a whole bunch of other people. It was like 20-something people got badly injured. It was just a horrible scene, and it was hard to differentiate between that kind of attack and like a jihadist or an Islamic terrorist driving a truck into a crowd and just massacring a whole bunch of people. Now, when these kind of events happen, people say, don't politicize it. Don't make it a political thing. We have to be respectful to the dead and not make this political. If a truck plows into a bunch of people and it was an Islamic terrorist, and people make a point about the ways that they want to destroy ISIS, or people talk about the ways they want to prevent radical Islam from spreading, or, stopping those ideas, that's perfectly fine. The only issue that myself and others have had with that is when they then demonize random Muslim people, which they have a tendency to do because they're too stupid half the time to actually criticize things without impugning a whole bunch of other random people as well. But if you want to talk about ways to try and prevent terrorism, or if you want to explain why terrorism contributed to this and how terrorism occurs, that's not regressive. That's just being intelligent and thinking about things. So I'm going to think through this terrorist attack. Who is to blame? Who is to blame for this terrorist attack? I'm perfectly fine going there. And the number one thing to blame, or the number one person, is the terrorist, the guy that drove the car, the neo-Nazi guy, the person who did it. While that may be true, I did have a discussion with Anya/Nice Mangoes, who has a podcast, Polite Conversations, about this, where she said,
"This both sides are bad bullshit right after someone has been deliberately plowed down and murdered by a Nazi is as bad as the lefties you decried who blame the West right after a terror attack. Condemn the violent terrorist first and foremost in any case, no matter the color of their skin. And then later on, down the line, there'll be plenty of time to analyze and talk about the root causes or whatever."
And I disagreed. I don't really think it matters that much to just say that guy did it, now we have to not say anything else, because we don't want to politicize things. Sure, that guy did it. Sure, he's responsible for his actions. Sure, he's an individual. The same with a fucking jihadist, a fucking Buddhist monk in Myanmar killing some people. Sure, they're an individual, but I was called regressive by a lot of people for so long because when a Islamic terrorist attack would occur, I would say, why did this happen? What were the reasons for this? Oh, it was just the terrorist. Like, bullshit. It wasn't just the terrorists. For starters, there was the radical doctrine, there was the people around him, there was the society he lived in, there was the ideas that he believed in, and there were things that may have radicalized that person. And there's nothing regressive about thinking about that. So while it's good to say, this is the guy who did it and he's to blame, that in itself is completely inefficient. Nobody learns anything. So what do I think is the main reason why this happened? This specific event, besides the obvious, that guy doing it, Donald fucking Trump. Donald Trump is who I fucking blame. And why is that? Because he has created the environment where these Nazis feel extremely empowered, like they have an official voice, and that they are part of the fabric of America, of making America great again, of taking their country back. And this is where it all fucking started.
The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. Thank you. It's true. And these are the best and the finest. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting. And it only makes common sense. It only makes common sense.
It started with his racist, xenophobic message of these fucking Mexicans are rapists and they're gonna come in and destroy everything. And people will pass that out and say, oh, he wasn't like really saying they were rapists. You gotta listen to the context, you gotta listen to the nuance. It's called political messaging. The political message was, fear the other. People with different skin color and from different cultures are coming in and ruining everything. They are the thing that you should be scared of. They are the killers and the rapists and the murderers. He doesn't have to phrase it exactly like he's saying all Mexicans are rapists. For racists who are sitting on their couch, being fucking losers, sit up and their ears prick up and they're like, yeah, that's right, those fucking Mexicans. I don't like those fucking Mexicans. And then talking about the black crime in Chicago, this horrible crime in Chicago.
Afghanistan is not like what's happening in Chicago. People are being shot left and right. Thousands of people over a short period of time. This year, which has just started, is worse than last year, which was a catastrophe. They're not doing the job. Now, if they want help, I would love to help them. I will send in what we have to send in. Maybe they're not going to have to be so politically correct. Maybe they're being overly political correct. Maybe there's something going on. But you can't have those killings going on in Chicago. Chicago is like a war zone. Chicago is worse than some of the people that you report and some of the places that you report about every night.
So I will
in the Middle East.
Sanctuary cities. Oh, our societies are being destroyed. We've got to bring in law and order and all of these different buzzwords. And if you don't understand political messaging, take a fucking look at this ad.
Bush and Dukakis on crime. Bush supports the death penalty for first-degree murderers. Dukakis not only opposes the death penalty, he allowed first-degree murderers to have weekend passes from prison. One was Willie Horton, who murdered a boy in a robbery, stabbing him 19 times. Despite a life sentence, Horton received 10 weekend passes from prison. Horton fled, kidnapped a young couple, stabbing the man and repeatedly raping his girlfriend. Weekend prison passes. Dukakis on crime.
This is the famous Willie Horton ad which George H.W. Bush used against Michael Dukakis. Now, an ordinary, regular person would see that ad, a not very politically savvy person, and say, oh my, that looks awfully dangerous. I don't want that rapist person out on the street. Oh, I'm going to vote for George H.W. Bush. I'm scared. But a racist person, they'll see that ad and say, I tell you what, it's those goddamn blacks. It's those violent, raping blacks. Michael Dukakis wants to turn this country into a goddamn jungle with those Negroes, and just go into this whole racist KKK bullshit, and then feel like, deep down, yeah, George H.W. Bush, he's the president for me. He's the president who represents my racist beliefs. And that's exactly what's going on with Donald Trump, except he has pushed the race, not just through some shitty policies, but through his whole fucking messaging throughout his whole campaign. And he was basically saying to these people, hey, racist scumfucks, Come support me, I'm your man. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that these Nazis, KKK motherfuckers, are running around wearing Make America Great Again hats. It's because they know Trump is the white supremacist president. We are taking back this country. It's for us. And then the whole fucking Pepe meme bullshit. They were like, oh, it's that great, like, Pepe meme war, where they use memes to spread racist messages about Jews, about blacks, about Mexicans, all of the different races they hate, and celebrate the white race. And then if you try to call it out, they can just say, it's ironic, it's just a meme, it's just a Pepe, man, it's just a green frog, it's no big deal. And the people who are not the rabid racists, or at least like to believe that they're not, who also turn around and say, look, a whole bunch of these fucking white supremacist scumfucks use Pepe memes, but it's just a frog, man. Lay off, it's just sarcasm. You are enablers, and you are, like, basically Nazi appeasers. You're appeasing these people, and now they feel empowered. And people say, oh, it's because of Black Lives Matter, it's because of Antifa, it's because of all these different groups. But we had those groups before without the fucking alt-right being in an ascendancy. I mean, BLM has been around for some time in regards to police violence, and that didn't cause the alt-right to rise up. And Antifa ostensibly arose out of a reaction to speakers like Milo Yiannopoulos and Ann Coulter and others who carry water for these racist scumfucks. Antifa wasn't prominent before, and a lot of the people who are for BLM generally just think it's a movement against police violence. Somebody who thinks they're for BLM might shoot a cop, and that's bad, but it's not really in the literature or in the ideas of BLM that you should commit violence against the police. That would be that person extrapolating. But the alt-right is explicitly and openly anti-other races. They're not just saying like, hey, there's some injustice we want to end. They're saying we want a white ethno-state. A peaceful white ethno-state. It's just really not comparable to BLM. And Antifa, I mean, I'm not really on the same page as those guys because I think that they escalate violence way too much. And I think it really does cause a huge problem. But it's so beyond stupid to say that they are the reason that the alt-right is an ascendancy. And I think that people who say that just do not understand the power of having a president who basically gives you the reach around constantly, who when he comes out after the event and makes a speech, doesn't even mention you, doesn't even like mention the rally.
But we're closely following the terrible events unfolding in Charlottesville, Virginia. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, on many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America. What is vital now is a swift restoration of law and order and the protection of innocent lives.
And the people on the Daily Stormer, which is like the white supremacist website, were just like, see, Donald Trump loves us. We are going to make America great again. Donald Trump is an idiot and a coward. And I blame this whole toxic stew of white supremacists on Donald Trump. Let me clarify though. I know that people will be saying, are you saying he's responsible for racism? No. He's not responsible for the fact that Nazis exist. He didn't create the alt-right. The alt-right was already around. It was just a lot smaller, and it had far less support and a lot less visibility. Donald Trump is responsible for legitimizing these groups through his political rhetoric.
Two questions. Was this terrorism, and can you tell us how you're feeling about your chief strategist?
Well, I think the driver of the car is a disgrace to himself, his family, and this country. And that is, you can call it terrorism, you can call it murder, you can call it whatever you want. I would just call it as the fastest one to come up with a good verdict. That's what I'd call it.
McCain said that the alt-right is behind these attacks, and he linked that same group to those who perpetrated the attack in Charlottesville.
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm sure Senator McCain must know what he's talking about. But when you say the alt-right, define alt-right to me. You define it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying, as
no, define it for me. Come on, let's go. Define
Senator
it for me.
McCain defined them as the same group.
Okay, what about the alt-left that came charging at him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
You know, continuing to fearmonger about black people and Mexicans and so forth in a very heavy-handed way is just constantly sending a signal to these people. This is our country, this is for us. And the Confederacy and the statue of Robert E. Lee, that represents America, because this is our country. Thanks, Donald. Thanks, Mr. Trump. Obviously, the other blame is the actual fucking Nazis themselves, who are just horrific, horrible human beings. There's no difference between that neo-Nazi dude and just a fucking ISIS guy. They're all part of the same theocratic boat of just racist, moronic idiots. It's just like people expect America to be better. It's supposed to be like the shining city on the hill, and it's just not. It's just a fucking garbage dump. A lot of the time, okay? It's a big country. There's some good bits. Richard Spencer and Baked Alaska and all these fucking chuckleheads who just need a lot more macing.
I got it.
Gotta go. Keep streaming.
I got it, baby.
My face is burning too. You gotta get mad.
And the third would be the appeasers of these racists. Now that's a kind of broad and amorphous category, but I am thinking a lot of people like Sargon Vicard, Ahmed Skeptic. Chris, I love you, Chris Raygun, but I mean, the way you reacted to your friend John Tron saying a fuckload of racist shit was just pathetic, and you people are coddling these supremacists. You're basically cupping their balls every single day, because all you ever do is go on is like, the left did this, the left did that, the left did this. Oh, the big problem is the left. You know, if the left hadn't punched Richard stupid Nazi Spencer in the fucking head, you know, none of this racism would exist. You're saying it's the fault of Trump? Oh, I mean, come on, typical Trump derangement. Like, don't pay attention to the right. It's just a battle of ideas. Like, you people are pathetic when it comes to being able to criticize bad ideas that don't involve brown people, to be perfectly honest. What's the difference between these fucking white supremacist scumfucks and, you know, radical Muslims and shit, who you're perfectly fine with calling out every single day and saying, like, if you don't call out the Muslims or Islam as much as we do, you're fucking regressive. What's the difference? The Muslims are brown. So it's fine just going on and on about the brown people, the fucking brown people. But, you know, the moment you've got a bunch of fucking Nazis, you just say like, oh, you shouldn't have punched them in the head, you know? You shouldn't have fucking maced them. Are you fucking serious? Like, how pathetic are you? How weak and docile are you on this topic? Are all Nazis bad? And yeah, I'm talking about the people doing the fucking Zig Hails, and to an extent, a bunch of the people hiding behind Pepe memes and pretending that they're not rabid racists. Are they all bad? Yeah, I mean, pretty much basically all fucking bad. Fuck all those people. Is ISIS all bad? Yeah, pretty much all of ISIS is bad. Fuck all of ISIS. Are like conservative Muslims bad? There's a lot of conservative Muslims. There may be some nuance to their view. You know, there's probably some reasons why they're so homophobic, but is that bad? Yeah, fuck them. Fuck those people. You know, fuck like most of the goddamn fucking world. The world is full of shitty people. It's just you can't suddenly go silent and just lose your ability to criticize because they're a bunch of fucking white people, you know? It's unbearable. And the centrists come along and they're all like, there's fault on both sides, guys. Can you imagine that? Like, a jihadi drives a fucking car into a crowd and like kills a bunch of people. And then I come out there, me, Mr. Regressive, I come out and say, no, there's fault on both sides, guys, you know, like, the Islamic terrorist is bad, but also, like, some people, you know, they called him mean names, and sometimes they call Muslims who aren't terrorists, and that makes them all angry and shit. Would you, who would accept that? Would you accept that? No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, Tim, you're aggressive. Basically, oh Tim, you're regressive, but you do it with Nazis, and you're not a regressive. You see, a lot of this shit is projection. When you call people regressive, you're basically like quote unquote progressive on white issues, but when it comes to like brown and black people, you're regressive as fuck. Your views on those people are regressive. If I believe that word was an actual thing, I'm just trying to like make it make sense. But I don't understand like a lot of these like skeptical people or whatever, like people like Ahmed Skeptic who make entire videos on topics they obviously do not know about at all, like postmodernism. Like he literally You could tell he didn't know what postmodernism was. He didn't know what the ideas of postmodernism are. He didn't know about the theory. He hadn't read anything about it. He just didn't know about the topic. And then he goes and he makes a whole half-hour video like, I'm going to talk about this topic I don't know about and pretend like I'm an expert on that. Like, they're fine doing that kind of shit, but they can't make a video about something fucking obvious, like that these goddamn racist fucks are being enabled by Donald Trump and their scum. And fuck the extreme right. That should just be so easy. But instead they come out like, both sides do it, guys. Yeah, there's problems all around. So that's my general take on this shitty situation. And on a final note, I just have to mention it because it's really weird. One thing I did not expect to come up from this whole terrorist attack thing was relitigation of Hillary Clinton versus Bernie Sanders. But it seems that in reaction to a terrorist attack in which a girl who had a Bernie Sanders picture on her Facebook page, I think she's part of the Democratic Socialists of America, killed in a terrorist attack by a neo-Nazi, Hillary Clinton supporters decided, you know whose fault this is? Bernie Sanders. Because he made Hillary Clinton lose the election. And I was just so confused. What you decide is how am I going to score points of this person being killed in order to blame Bernie Sanders and blame Bernie bros. Now I hear some people saying, but Tim, you just blamed Trump for all of this. You're just as bad as these Hillary Clinton supporters. The difference there is that the connection between Trump's racist rhetoric and these people walking around wearing Make America Great Again hats saying that they love Donald Trump and that he's their president, that line is fairly straight. There's no real detours there. You don't really have to go around anything. It's just how Donald Trump's conducted himself. Direct line. Those people. I mean, it's not complicated. But when you get to like Bernie Sanders and Bernie bros, first you have to analyze, did those people actually lose the election for Hillary Clinton? Or did Hillary Clinton lose the election because she was very unlikable, people were sick of the Clintons, that she was corrupted by Wall Street, that she sucked up to special interests and took PAC money, that she watered down her ideas a lot in order to appeal to the middle, that she tried to shame people into voting for her instead of say like, you should vote for me because of a positive message, and that she just turned off a whole bunch of voters because of her shitty campaign? Or was it because a bunch of Bernie people were like, we don't want to support her anymore? I certainly think that Bernie Sanders hurt her in the election, didn't do her any favors, didn't help her, but did she lose because of Bernie Sanders? I don't know. You've got to go around a lot of things, over a bunch of hills and under a bunch of stuff to really get from Bernie Sanders to this terrorist attack. So it just makes me think that you saw a craven opportunity to use a death to your advantage. And I think it's sick and disgusting, and I think you should be fucking ashamed of yourselves, to be perfectly honest. And it also made me think that the 2020 election between the progressive wing and the further left and centrist liberals and sort of DNC, Democratic Party supporters, the fight between those people in 2020 is going to be amazingly vicious. It's going to be fucking ugly. There's going to be so much infighting on the left. Because if they're willing to take a terrorist attack like this by neo-Nazis and somehow make that about Bernie Sanders because they're so bitter that their pathetic loser of a candidate, Hillary Clinton, lost the election, imagine how fucking vicious they're going to be in 2020 in their attacks on progressives and such. And I know they're rhetorical attacks. It's not like an attack. But there's a big difference between looking at a situation like this attack and saying like, I can see the things that are actually related to this, and going on this crazy tangent being like, if Hillary was president, this wouldn't happen and it's because of Bernie Sanders. Well, fuck you. Maybe you shouldn't have put up such a shitty candidate. I would never say that Hillary Clinton supporters and Hillary Clinton caused this because they fucking suck, because that wouldn't be nice. And it would be unfair. And it's just like, okay, we're going to take this as a prime opportunity to have heaps of infighting on the left. Genius. So basically, I mean, God damn it. Fuck Nazis.